everyone. Karen the Warp Spinster here. Thank you for joining me today for Sunday Sundries. There are a couple of things I want to do today with you. They are both projects that I'm working on. This first one, I'm just trying something out. I haven't looked at it yet, really. I've cut out the pieces, but I haven't put them together to see what I think. So you can offer your opinion and you'll be in on the ground floor, maybe even the garden level of what I do with this quilt. This selection of fabrics is from my Mod Holiday collection, and I have had this printed at Spoonflower. The size of the prints is larger than I might use for a lot of projects, but it seemed right for this particular project. This is the background fabric I'll be using. It's just a very low volume kind of fabric with the gray that I use in here. So it's pink, yellow, green. Oh, there's no orange in this one, and grays. So these are the fabrics that I'll be working with for this quilt. Now, the quilt involves half circles. Lots of half circles. And so I'm not sure exactly how I want to put those together. I'm going to construct them as quarter circles, so they're kind of like Drunkard's Path, but a little sharper. So I won't have this space. You know, with Drunkard's Path, you've got the background here. My background is going to go right up against that. So I don't have any extra fabric here of the background. So I've just cut some pieces out based on 3-4 maybe possibilities that I have. So originally I had thought to just do the half circles all as one fabric. And then I thought about this intersection, and do I want that? I'm not sure that I care. I could certainly cut them out so that they will match up. I don't know whether or not I care about that or not. All right, let's turn it this way. This is how it's actually going to be on the quilt, but I think this will fit better in the frame. So that's a possibility. The other possibility is to have different fabrics so that you have quarter circles, more obvious quarter circles. That's possible. And then I got to thinking, because I've been playing with the black and white stripes particularly, what if I did half of it, of each half circle? There are, maybe a dozen half circles. Then I could do that with the black and white stripe. Because these are brights, I think that would look good. I have designed a stripe for the collection, which I haven't had printed yet. And it's a regular stripe, but not, how do I want to say this? It's an even stripe, but not a regular stripe. I don't know. It's not like this. It's not just stripes that are the same width and alternating. It has some thinner stripes in there, etc. And I might want that. It depends on whether I want the pow of the black and white with it, or if I wanted a softer, if that's possible, with these bright colors. So if I'm doing a stripe, of course, I have the option of doing this or having diagonal stripes. So that's going up in that direction. Now that gives it a lot more motion, I guess. Question is, do I want that motion? Well, this gives it motion too, just the straight up stripe. Now, if I use this particular stripe, I would have to cut this on the bias, which I really would not particularly want to do. This is always going to be on the bias, but the stripe that I've designed for the collection is in fact a diagonal stripe, so I wouldn't have to cut it on the bias to get the diagonal. So that's a possibility. I don't know. What do you think? So this is the diagonal stripe, and this is the straight stripe. As I said, I haven't looked at these, so looked at these before, so you're allowed a vote. And then this is called trees, and this is baubles. So this is the tree and baubles. And then we have the tree and tree. Actually, that's kind of interesting with those two together, isn't it? It makes it, you don't really see because this is a two-way, and it's not really a two-way toss, but it's a two-way stripe or a piece in effect, because it's got different lengths here, but they are both going that direction. So it's a bi-directional. So that actually could work. Let's see what happens with bobble and bobble if we put them together. And I think that would work too, because the bobbles are overlapping in the piece anyway, in the design. Now I think the one fabric I for sure wouldn't want to do that with would be this plaid, but I'm not planning to use this plaid anyway, because it's not going to be enough contrast to the background, I don't think. Now there are some bars in it that I might, I was going to use the gray stripe. There are some bar shapes, big surprise with me, right? But maybe I'll use the plaid instead. So many options. That's the fun of designing, but oh my, at some point you have to make a decision, right? All right, so that's the bobble and bobble. So let me know what you think. Now for this particular design, these half circles are the main point of the design, and then there are some bars as well. But I was thinking, if I did a series, here's something I could do. I could do it with the stripe too, but I could do another one that has the half circles, but then it swaps off in the center, does a little twist, and pink, pink, pink. And then, let's do it this way. It has some longer bars going out here. I don't know, can you picture it? I'm not being very good about this, am I? So that then this would be a longer bar coming out here of each of those, so it swaps it over. I don't necessarily think I want to do this. In fact, I'm pretty sure I don't want to do that. So I would be going this direction if I did that. Now, if I did the stripe, let's see if I can dig out my black stripe here. And let's say we did this as the stripe. I don't know which way the stripe goes here. If we do this, then yes, all right. That's the way it would go. And oops, that's not right. Oh, well, that's kind of interesting. If I did that, then would I then want it to go this way if I did that, so that that matches up, as if it's just twisted in the center there? I don't know. I'm not sure that I even like that stripe in this particular design. I think that's too much. Too much stripe. I think I want just an accent sort of thing. All right. Finish fiddling with those. What do you think? How many times have I asked you what you think? That has some appeal. And then it would be this background underneath or behind all that. exactly need to see those selvages, do you? And then that is the background. You know, that's not bad. I'm going to have to order some of the gray stripe and see. I kind of like that movement. With this gray background, the gray on white background, I don't know if I like that stripe, so I'm thinking I need to have some of that gray stripe printed. You may be seeing this again. Lucky you. I think I do want that rather than what I did with those pieces. Probably underneath. Oh, well, I think I do want to alternate them rather than have the same ones next to each other. Or I could do different ways in the quilt, add some more interest to it and have some of them be split and some of them just be the same. And then have some that have the stripe in it. That's what I'm going to go with for the moment. But I will order some of that gray diagonal stripe and see where that puts us. All right, now let me pull all of these out of the way. Another project that I'm working on is my pointless. I know. So this is the pointless design. This is the mock-up or prototype that I did when I did the design. And this I designed using the soup to nuts method, I believe. So check out that video if you haven't seen it yet. It's just a way to design kind of a new block if you don't quite know how to go about doing that. Anyway, so I'm going to move I'll just do a picture and put it up for you so I don't make you seasick with the camera. But I have lots of half square triangles. I mean, lots of half square triangles. And I also have a square and a square. And the way I'm making them, I'm ending up with lots of little pieces like this, lots of little corner triangles that get put back and trimmed. And they're certainly small enough that I wouldn't feel terribly guilty about tossing them, but I've just been tossing them into my paint water cup. And I thought, well, what could I do with these? If I seam them with the 1/4 inch seam, of course, they're going to be so tiny as to not be seen. So I think that means I'm doing an applique, and it's probably going to be a raw edge applique kind of deal. And I'm just trying this out. There are various ways you can deal with these small scraps. One of the ways I've seen, well, a couple of things, is to lay them all out and then put a fine tool over them to hold them securely, or an organdy or some kind of nearly sheer fabric. And that's an option. It's not the option I'm going to try out, and this may be a complete failure. Perhaps those options happened because people tried this and it didn't work. But what I think I want to do is to just lay these out, and I'm actually going to do it fairly randomly. But because I want some of the background or the negative space, I can't just lay on a piece of double-sided fusible and then stick them on, because I'll have fusible that will ruin my iron. And even if I use a pressing sheet, a silicone pressing sheet, then when I'm finished, I will still have that mucky stuff in the end of the glue adhesive still there. So what I'm going to do is lay these all out and then do a lot of quilting or stitching across it. So I'm going to start out with just putting a little dab of just a school glue stick. This is an Elmer's, it's a washable. Just enough to stick it down. This is not going to hold it there forever. It's like the fusible webs. It's there till you wait for you to get things permanently stitched on, except Heat and Bond. I guess Heat and Bond isn't designed to be stitched, but that's pretty thick stuff. All right, so I'm just doing these sort of semi-randomly, laying them on. You've seen what I'm doing, so I'll just speed all this up so you don't have to watch me do this. You can see that I reached down and got some of my half square triangle bits from my other stash just to add in another bit of color in here. And I do in fact have that color in the quilt that I'm working on, so I will have an equal number of this color of scraps that size. So I think I like that extra bit of color. Now, the next step would be, you might think, to stitch all these down. Are there going to be raw edges and some raveling if this were washed or handled much? Absolutely, yes there will. And this sort of goes probably more into the art quilt rather than improv. It's an improv art quilt maybe, but it's something that I want to try because I do like this look with smaller pieces, but I don't want to piece all of them. You've seen me piece some pretty small things, but I think I really like this random placement, and that would be difficult to do a piecing scheme. And I think not worth the effort that it would take for me to do that. It might be for some people, but for me it is not. So I would do quilting lines that are pretty darn close together, or stitching lines. They don't have to be quilting lines yet. Before I lay it out. I mean, this would be a kind of a cute little micro mini, but I would do lines pretty close together in order to stitch these down. Now I could use a white thread, which I think would, well, that would add some extra movement to it, of course, and extra texture, because the white crossing this black would be quite stark. Less stark on the colors, but definitely stark on the black. I could use black, which would be, of course, the opposite, and it would be even more noticeable because you've got the black on the white. If you're using a white thread, then it just adds texture, not contrast on the background. But if you've been following my videos for a while, you probably know what I'm thinking I might want to do. I'm so predictable, aren't I? It's just sad. If I were to take, you saw this coming, didn't you? If I were to take a thin strip of this is what I'm talking about. Let me cut a thin strip here. My mat is very embarrassing, so I have to head out to one of my local quilt shops and pick up a new mat. What I need to do is replace my blade so that I don't hack up my mat quite so badly. But that would be much too easy. Much too easy for me. All right, so if I take a thin strip and splice that in, or I could even just put it on top, couldn't I? I could do an applique kind of thing. I don't think I want two of them, and I could even then shift things a little bit if I actually piece this in. So this would be the finished width. I wouldn't have enough there to piece that in, even as a little bit of piping. And then I could shift it. So, you know, that's a possibility. I could do, of course, one like this, then do another one, because goodness knows I'm going to have enough of these things, and then try that. I think that's going to be a next week thing though, because I'm trying to think. I don't know that I would necessarily have to do the stitching first. I could, when I'm piecing it, let's get a piece that, how wide is this in the end? I really want it to be pretty narrow. So let's say we do that at a 1/4 inch. Got a 1/4 inch on either side, so that needs to be a 3/4 inch wide strip that I piece. And then I'll have this ready for next week if I decide I want to do that. So I could figure out where I want to splice this, lay this down, being careful that I'm not dislodging these, although it isn't as if they're in perfect placement, that I couldn't just stick them down again. Stitch this, fold it back and press it, and then cut that. And then rather than flip this over, I would then take this whole piece. I'm going to have to flip one of them over one way or another, aren't I? Yeah, we'll see how that goes. Stay tuned. And next week I will, for sure, I almost said hopefully, but for sure I will have more of these pieces in different colors. I have pink, blue, orange, and green of those. So I really like this. I don't know how it will look when it's stitched, of course. The other option I should mention is that I could put all of these on fusible web and then cut around each triangle and do it pretty well so I don't do anything horrible to my iron. And then they'll be stuck down better for anything else that I want to do. That's a little more work than I want to put in these scraps, but it might be an option that you like. And depending on how much I like this in the end, maybe I will do that if this doesn't stay secure enough while I'm working with it. We'll see. I like it. I kind of like it. That's it for this week. On Wednesday, I have another plan for 2.5 inch squares, which is a little different, and maybe some 1.5 inch squares in there. And on next Sunday, then we'll revisit this, move a little further, try some different things. I am off to make an appointment to donate blood, so I will hopefully see you on Wednesday or Sunday. At both, actually. I would love to see you there both times. In the meantime, be well, be happy, be quilting. Peace out.